I attended my ex-wife's wedding for closure. Then the groom got arrested mid-toast and she walked straight to me.
Hi, I'm Mason, 34, and last week I watched my ex-wife's new husband get arrested mid-toast at their wedding. I didn't want to go. Let me just say that right up front. Nobody wants to watch the person they once promised forever to marry someone else in front of 100 people in a fog machine, but the invitation was hand-delivered by her sister, who still liked me, and my therapist said closure like it was a real thing and not just a word people use to make you feel like you're failing at healing. So I showed up, wore the good suit, brought a neutral gift, put on my best "I'm totally fine" face, even though my stomach was in full Civil War mode. The ceremony was at this modern farmhouse-style venue that looked like Pinterest exploded. Wooden arches, mason jars, fairy lights, all that rustic chic nonsense that screams budget luxury. Avery, my ex, looked stunning. Of course she did. She always knew how to dress for drama. Her new guy, Landon, had the exact kind of face you'd expect from a man named Landon, suspiciously symmetrical and empty behind the eyes, like God got bored halfway through. They said their vows, people cried, someone's grandma sneezed so hard she knocked over her chair. I clapped like I meant it, clapped like someone who hadn't been replaced by a guy who vapes with both hands and runs a podcast about crypto called Blockchain Brainwaves. The reception was where things got weird. Dinner was salmon or chicken. I picked salmon. Should have picked chicken. Landon's best man gave a speech that included 3 different references to Joe Rogan and one weird joke about ketamine that bombed so hard I almost clapped out of pity. Then it was Landon's turn. He tapped the mic, took a long swig of champagne, winked at Avery, and then he said the words, "Before I say anything else, I just want to thank the feds for not showing up. Yet." Laughter, nervous chuckles. I thought it was a joke. Then the doors opened, and the feds showed up. Uniforms, badges, one woman with a clipboard and a really tired face. Landon Bryce Wallace? The man did not blink, just turned to Avery and said, "Babe, this is gonna sound crazy." It didn't matter. They cuffed him before he could finish the sentence. I watched Avery's mouth drop open as they read him his rights over the speakers because someone forgot to turn off the mic. Her new husband was being arrested for wire fraud on their wedding night, and that's not even the craziest part. So, there I am, standing next to the chocolate fountain, holding a plate of violently underripe fruit, and watching my ex-wife's new husband get cuffed by a guy who looked like he got rejected from central casting for being too FBI. Landon didn't go quietly either. "I did this for you," he shouted, trying to twist around as they guided him toward the door. "The money was for our future." Avery just stood there, frozen in place, bouquet in hand like she was in a hostage situation and didn't know who was holding the gun. It was dead silent. No music, no chatter, just the sound of Landon's patent leather shoes squeaking against the polished floor as he was dragged out of his own wedding. Then some kid in a bow tie whispered, "Is this part of the reception?" And his dad shushed him so fast it echoed. I didn't know what to do. I mean, what do you do when your ex-wife's new marriage ends before they've cut the cake? I sipped my warm white wine. I considered just walking out like a sane person, but then Avery looked up and saw me, and our eyes locked like we were both in a really awkward indie film where nobody talks for 20 minutes and it wins best screenplay anyway. She started walking toward me. Not slowly, not thoughtfully, just straight line, beelining across the parquet floor like someone had pulled her string and pointed her in my direction. "Hey," she said when she reached me. I blinked. "Hey." She stood there, hands trembling, lip quivering just a little like it was deciding whether or not to cry. I didn't know. I figured. She gave a dry laugh that didn't sound like her at all. "Jesus, I married a criminal." "To be fair, I think he was a criminal before you married him. You just upgraded his drama." She closed her eyes, pressed her fingers to her forehead. "Do you think people will remember this?" I stared at her. "Avery, he was arrested during his toast. Yes, people will remember." Another dry laugh. Then she surprised me. She sat down. Right there, on the floor, in her designer wedding dress, like her knees had just given up and she was done pretending. I think I might be cursed. I hesitated, then I sat down next to her, and for a few seconds we just sat there, two divorced people, staring at a crumpled napkin someone had stepped on and left behind. And then Avery turned to me, eyes shining. "I don't suppose you'd help me clean this up?" she said, like she knew exactly how pathetic that sounded, but didn't care. And without thinking, I said the one word that still surprises me when I look back. "Yeah."
Helping your ex-wife clean up the ruins of her FBI-interrupted wedding isn't something they teach you how to do. There's no Hallmark card for, "Sorry your groom was arrested mid-toast. Love, your ex." But I helped. We started with the centerpieces because it gave us something to do with our hands. Avery was muttering under her breath, tearing eucalyptus leaves out of the floral arrangements with this manic focus, like if she just deconstructed enough decorations, she could undo the last 30 minutes. Guests were still lingering, staring, pretending not to be entertained. I heard someone whisper, "Do we still get cake?" And I swear a piece of my soul left my body. The DJ, bless him, was doing his best to read the room. He lowered the music to a tasteful jazz funeral volume and kept looking at me like maybe I was going to ask for a refund. "Buddy, I'm just here because I got dumped 2 years ago, and apparently closure is a group activity now." Avery finally dropped the bouquet onto the gift table and said, "You know what the worst part is?" I waited. "The worst part is I thought I'd finally won." She said it like a confession, like it cost her something to admit. "I married the tall, hot, successful guy. I got the big wedding. I thought I'd finally beat you." I blinked. "Beat me?" She laughed. No joy in it. "Come on, Mason. We both know we turned breaking up into a competition." I didn't answer because she wasn't wrong. After the divorce, we both tried to prove we were fine. I posted travel photos like I suddenly had airline status. She posted him, Landon, with his dumb champagne smile and his podcast mic always just in frame. We weren't healing, we were marketing. And now she was sitting in the aftermath of it all, surrounded by half-eaten salmon and folding chairs, looking like a queen whose throne just got repoed. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. It caught me off guard. I'd waited years to hear that, and now that I had, it didn't feel like victory. It just felt sad. "I'm sorry too," I said. She nodded, and for a long moment we just stood there in the middle of her ruined reception, the past and future both wrecked, but the present weirdly still. Then someone started clapping, just slow, sarcastic clapping from the back corner. We turned. It was Landon's best man. He was holding a drink in one hand and his phone in the other, clearly recording. "God," he said, "you two are better content than his podcast ever was." And just like that, something inside me snapped. I don't know what came over me, but I started walking toward him without thinking, calm, steady, like I was in some courtroom drama and the judge had just allowed a moment of pure, righteous violence. He didn't flinch, just kept sipping his drink and smirking like he'd just dropped the hottest take of the year. "You think this is funny?" I asked. He raised an eyebrow. Yeah? I mean, come on. Dude gets arrested mid-toast? That's viral gold. You should thank me for getting it on video." Avery stepped beside me. "Delete it," she said. He looked her up and down, then grinned. "Nah, this is public space. You threw a party. You don't get to control the story now." And that's when I did it. I reached out, snatched the phone from his hand, and dropped it face down into the merest pitcher of sangria. The room went completely still. No music, no chatter, just the slow, tragic gurgle of a $1,200 iPhone drowning in booze and diced oranges. He stared at the pitcher like I'd just tossed in his firstborn. "You psycho?" he started, stepping forward, but then Avery moved. She didn't yell, didn't scream, just took the full glass of champagne she'd been holding and calmly poured it over his head. The room lost it, like a dam had broken. Someone actually clapped.
A group of bridesmaids cheered. The DJ switched the music to Beyoncé without a word, like he'd been waiting for a cue. The best man stormed out, dripping and furious, yelling something about lawsuits, but no one followed him, no one cared. And for the first time all night, Avery smiled. Not the tight, brittle kind she'd been faking for photos, a real one, wide, messy, free. She turned to me and said, "I should have done that 3 months ago at the rehearsal dinner when he said women aren't funny unless they're British or dying." I laughed. Guess he got both tonight. She looked around at the wreckage, confetti on the floor, tipsy guests dancing like they just got out of jury duty, and the slow unraveling of a day that was supposed to be her fresh start. And then she did something I'll never forget. She grabbed the mic from the DJ booth. The music faded, and she stood there, barefoot now, don't know when the shoes came off, holding the mic like a battle flag. "Hi, I'm Avery. This was my wedding. It went to hell." Laughter rippled through the crowd. And honestly, that feels correct, because for the first time in years, I'm not pretending something broken is working just to look good in pictures. Someone whooped. Someone yelled, "Preach!" She found me in the crowd and smiled again. And to the people who stayed, thank you, seriously. I know this wasn't the open bar drama you expected, but if anyone still wants cake, it's in the back. Mason's cutting it. My eyebrows shot up. "I am?" She nodded, grinning. "You were married to me. You've earned it."
So that's how I ended up, knife in hand, standing behind a 3-tiered wedding cake I didn't pay for, cutting slices for people who kept side-eyeing me like, is this allowed? Avery was off somewhere near the dance floor, being hugged by at least 3 people at once. One woman kept saying, "You're so brave," like Avery had just escaped from a cult instead of a crypto bro. I handed a piece of cake to an old man in a bolo tie who whispered, "Hell of a show," and gave me a wink that made me feel like I should be getting hazard pay. The cake wasn't even good. Dry, way too much fondant, and tasted like regret and almond extract. Still, people lined up for it like it was a prize. There's something about shared chaos that makes dessert feel necessary. Then I heard it. Avery's laugh. Not the tight social laugh, the real one. Big and unfiltered and loud enough to turn heads. I looked over. She was sitting on the edge of the stage, still barefoot, champagne in one hand, talking to the venue manager like they were old friends. I don't know why that sound hit me so hard, but it did. Maybe because I hadn't heard it in years. Maybe because it wasn't for anyone. Not for Instagram, not for Landon, not even for me. Just her, laughing, real and uncurated. I found myself smiling. Then, like a bad omen, my phone buzzed. I checked it, and my stomach sank. Landon, texting me, from jail. "Dude, I know how this looks." Oh, I bet he did. Another text came through immediately. "You know she still loves you, right?" I just stared at the screen. Third text. "Tell her I'm sorry and that I was gonna use the money to buy her that house she liked in Silver Lake. She'll know the one." I locked my phone and shoved it in my pocket like it might bite me. There's something uniquely horrible about getting manipulated by a guy in holding. Before I could think too hard, I felt a tap on my shoulder. Avery. She held out a plastic fork with a bite of cake on it. Terrible, right? I took the bite. "Offensively dry," I said. She sat next to me behind the cake table, legs stretched out, toes flexing like she was testing the idea of staying grounded. "I'm not going to ask if you still love me," she said suddenly. "That's not fair." "Okay," I said carefully. "But I will ask this." She looked at me. "Do you like me right now? Even a little?" I didn't answer right away. Not because I didn't know the answer, but because the truth felt fragile. "I think I do," I said finally. She nodded. "That's more than I had an hour ago." We sat there for a while, side by side, while the DJ tried to salvage the night by playing that one Bruno Mars song that always works better after 3 drinks. And for the first time in years, we weren't exes. We weren't rivals. We were just 2 people in the same mess,
trying to figure out how to laugh again without turning it into a weapon. By the time most of the guests had filtered out, some carrying centerpieces like war trophies, the usual wedding of the year had officially become the arrest party with great lighting. Avery and I were still sitting behind the cake table, watching the cleanup crew stack chairs like the night had just been a corporate event with bad appetizers and a minor felony. "Did you know he was in that deep?" I asked eventually. She shook her head. "He told me he invested in early-stage startups. I thought that meant apps. Turns out it meant someone's retirement fund." I winced. "Jesus." "Yeah," she said. "He bought me a Tesla with a debit card once. I should have asked more questions." I laughed before I could stop myself. She did too. Then she turned to face me, serious again. "You know, if this was a movie, we'd get back together now." I know. The credits would roll over us, dancing in the wreckage. "Slow motion," she added, "and that stupid indie song playing, you know the one that sounds like the singer recorded it inside a coffee can?" I chuckled. "With lyrics that don't make sense, like sunlight in my teeth." Exactly. We sat in silence for a minute. Not awkward, just quiet, like neither of us wanted to step on what the moment could be. Then Avery said, "But this isn't a movie." "No," I agreed. "It's definitely not." "So," she brushed crumbs from her lap, "what do we do now?" And I surprised both of us with my answer. We don't get back together. We don't pretend this wasn't a disaster. We don't turn it into a joke we tell at parties. We just leave it. She looked at me, eyes soft. "Leave it?" "Yeah, like wreckage, like ruins. Not fixed, not repainted, just left where it fell." She nodded slowly. "That sounds honest." "It's the only thing I've got left to offer," I said. She reached over, squeezed my hand once, and let go. "Thanks for staying," she said. "Thanks for inviting me." I didn't. "Right." We both laughed. Then she stood, wiped her hands on her dress, and looked around like she was waking up from a long dream. "I'm gonna go home, take off this dress, eat something fried, and maybe cry into my couch." Sounds like a solid plan. She took a step, then turned back. "And Mason? Yeah? If you ever write about this, please change my name." I smiled. Already done.
3 days after the wedding that wasn't, I got a voicemail from Avery. She was crying. Not the dramatic, mascara-melting sobs of someone trying to be heard, but the weird kind, where the voice shakes and catches on words that don't even seem sad. "Hey," she said, I saw the silverware today. It was still in the boxes. I forgot to return it." Then a long pause, just breathing. "I know we said we'd leave it, but I keep opening closets and finding pieces of him. I found a shoe, just one. Who leaves just one shoe? Like he escaped into the night barefoot with a podcast mic and a warrant." And despite myself, I laughed. I stood there, phone to my ear, grinning in my kitchen like a man who hadn't emotionally aged past 19. Then her voice changed, lower. "I didn't just marry him to win. I think I married him because he never saw me clearly, and that felt safer than being actually known." Another pause. "Anyway, sorry, you don't have to call back. Just wanted to say thanks. You're good in emergencies." The message ended. I didn't call back. Not yet. Instead, I took a long walk through my neighborhood, past the houses that all looked vaguely like IKEA catalog pages, past the bookstore I used to take Avery to, where she always made a beeline for the true crime section, like she was looking for blueprints. I ended up on a park bench with a coffee I didn't remember ordering, just thinking about all the ways we break and rebuild. How sometimes healing doesn't mean getting back what you lost, it means finally admitting it's gone. That night, I got a text from Luke. "Luke, hey man, heard you were at Avery's wedding. Heard it was intense." Luke was our mutual friend, the one who introduced us. Neutral territory in the war. Me. Understatement. "Luke, she okay?" "Eventually." He sent a thumbs up. And then, after a minute, "Luke, she's better with you." That one sat on my screen for a while. I didn't know if it was true. I wasn't sure I was better for her.
But I knew we were real. In all our messy, unfinished, unresolved glory, we were real. 2 days later, I saw her again. Not planned. I was at the grocery store trying to pick between 2 kinds of overpriced yogurt when I heard, "You know they're the same thing, right?" She was standing in the aisle, hair in a ponytail, no makeup, wearing sweatpants with a bleach stain the size of a crime scene. And she still looked like Avery. I held up both yogurts. I was weighing the emotional trauma of each brand. She nodded. Understandable. I put one back. Want to walk with me? She hesitated for half a second, then said, Yeah, I do. We walked. No destination, no big talk, just pushing a cart full of things neither of us really needed. And for once, it didn't feel like a comeback, or a climax, or a reconciliation. It just felt like now. 3 months later, we ran into Landon at a gas station. I wish I could say it was dramatic, that he was wearing an ankle monitor and trying to sell NFTs out of his trunk. But no, he was in khakis, sipping a smoothie, and pretending like the FBI absolutely body-snatched him at his own wedding. He froze when he saw us. Avery was in the driver's seat, window down, arm hanging out like she was made for confrontation. Hey, Landon, she said, chipper. Still laundering or just loitering? He gave this tight smile, like he thought if he looked charming enough, the past year would evaporate. Avery, Mason, wow, small world. I leaned on the roof of her car. The kind of world where you go to prison for defrauding retirees. His smoothie hand twitched. I took a plea, he said, like that was a plot twist. It's all behind me now. Community service, some fines, nothing jail-worthy. Turns out white collar still has perks. Avery snorted. You almost tanked an entire startup fund, stole money from your investors, and tried to write it off as a tax loss. You're not a misunderstood genius. You're just boring with Wi-Fi. He looked at me, maybe hoping for backup. I raised my coffee. I'm not getting involved. I'm just here for moral support and gas station gummy worms. He nodded slowly. Right. Well, good seeing you both. As he turned to leave, Avery called out, By the way, I kept the Tesla. It's in my name now. He glanced over his shoulder. Whatever helps you sleep. She smiled sweetly. A clean conscience and autopilot. We drove off before he could think of a comeback. Back on the freeway, windows down, radio up, she laughed, a big, full belly laugh, the kind I hadn't heard since the night of the non-wedding. What? I asked, glancing over. Nothing, she said, shaking her head. Just, I don't know. I thought seeing him would wreck me. But I feel fine. Actually fine. It's weird. It's called healing. Or petty revenge. Hard to tell sometimes. She reached over, laced her fingers through mine. We weren't back together. We hadn't labeled it. There was no big declaration, no Instagram post, no matching tattoos that said second chances are for suckers. There was just us. Rebuilt. Not as we were, but maybe, finally, as who we were becoming. And honestly, that was better than any ending I could have written.